So, welcome everybody to our BG5 Live. This is episode 150. I was so happy to see this that I can present actually episode 150. So I'm not sure why Karen cannot be here, but she couldn't make it. So she asked me to replace her as the presenter or whatever you want to call this. So today we're going to talk about trait 51. I know it very well. It's part of my life work. Preparing for initiation. So be prepared to be shocked. And I just shocked the beep out of Shelley because we were in OC16 and like 15 minutes before just the quarter to the top of the hour, she was like, we have to go to BG5. And I was like, no worries, Shelley, I'm good in last minute. Don't worry, we'll get there. So we just enter into this session like a minute before start. So that's how we do it when you shock the peep out of everybody. Okay. So, all right. So yes, April 13th, we're having a mini summit. And myself, Karen, Linda will present 4 hours of very rich content. It's only $35. And you will get 4 sessions on 4 essential truths of your success in career and business. And I'm actually going to do like this. So I am not, if I'm looking that way, I'm looking at my second screen, but let me try to look at this screen. So helping you navigate the changing times. So it's April 13th. You can find it in our special programs on our website, and please sign up. It's going to be great fun, and be surprised and shocked about the information we're going to share. Okay, so yes, I remember this beautiful layout. So we are entered into April. It's April 5th right now. So April is all about the shock of completing an old cycle and beginning anew. So there may be difficulty at the beginning. So take care of yourself first as you rationalize the change. So last week you discussed control, the 21, which is tying into getting into April, right? So the justification, the justified necessary use of power in overcoming interference. So today we are going to discuss initiation, the 51. This is shock. Arousing empowers the direction of love. Then next, we are going to discuss growth in the 42. Completing a cycle is the heart of growth. Ordering in trait 3, the difficulty at the beginning, it's all about mutation. And we actually, it's also an OC16 strength, so a leadership strength of innovation. Nourishment in the 27, care for oneself first, before you take care of others. And rationalization, the 24, the return, the inspiration must be given a rational form. So that is what April is all about in the purpose fulfilled through mind. So I don't know if any of our panelists want to say anything, or any thoughts on seeing this. Should I call on you, or are you going? Yes, Shelley.
I just was noticing that that the 51's not only in the core essence, conscious core essence, but also in the communication.
Yes.
For this time. So I'm not sure how long that lasts, but that's really interesting because that communication is about how we interact with the world as well. So, shock in, empowering this direction of love. So things in the world are a little bit shocking right now. We heard from a student in our last class from Europe about things that are going on there that have been quite shocking and really a little bit emotionally overwhelming for people. And just seeing the way this cycle works, though, eventually getting to the growth and completing the cycle in the heart of growth coming up. So that was just what I noticed.
Yeah, and the student you are referring to, she lives in Lithuania, which is right next to Ukraine. So she can feel it in her bones, everything that's happening over there. They were also part of Russia. So yeah, Yes. Anything for you, Linda?
Yes. What I sense for April is that I feel like we are being challenged a lot, and but it will bring us more to being ourselves. It's like really being shocked into and maybe a new direction, maybe a new cycle where you can experience growth, and there will be maybe difficulty at the beginning, but you also have to care for yourself first, because that's not what we are not always what we are used to. And then the return literally to ourselves, and to make really put it into a form, to rationalize it, to conceptualize it. So so I feel like there will be a lot of turmoil for this month, but also a lot of lessons to be, and lots of gems and gold to be found as well.
Beautiful. Anything for you, Anna?
Yeah, curiously, this is my mom's birthday today. And I lost her very early on, so I didn't really get to know her, but it's quite fascinating to look at her chart. It's a 12-hour chart, because we don't have the exact birth date, but it was a shock to lose her. So it's just a very interesting subject. Also, when I was pondering, this is about courage too. The courage to love yourself, courage to get through the shock or the circumstances or whatever, because it's connected to willpower. And
well, we'll dive into the 51 a little further. And as you can notice also, the grounding of the 51 of the shock is intuitive clarity, right? In the 57. So that's interesting as well, in how you can ground the shock. Yeah. All right, let's move on. So I'm not sure. This is probably something you've been talking about all along, right? Maybe you can share something about this, Linda, because I'm not sure what to share here.
These are the slides that Karen refers to, because we are still having a lot of
environment.
It's the environment throughout this year.
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm.
And what we see is that there is a lot of collective crisis and revolution. So crisis has been in the background from March 7 in what's hidden, and that will be there for 3 years from March 7. Yes, so it will be there for a long, long time. And then, from April 6, so that's tomorrow, to May 2, it will also appear in our personal law. So be prepared also to maybe experience, next to shock, also crisis in a double way, kind of, also in the background. Mm-hmm. And also the 49 of Principles is also really in our background energy this year. And that's of revolution. And that's in the Judge and Discipline. And that was from March 2nd till the rest of the year. It will be in Judge and Discipline. And also, I feel like we are moving out of it also from March 31st till April 7th. But I don't know in which other
there's
part it will be. No, so that I don't know.
No, So we can take a look, because that should be now as well. So in the maturing.
Oh, maturing energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it will move out in 2 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's something to held into account that's also in the background energy.
Nice. So this is going to be an interesting week, to say the least. All right, so BG5 Live today's theme, the 51 of initiation. So this is shock, arousing, empowers the direction of love. And yeah, so it is going to be interesting, because I know, Linda, you have the other side, and we have discussed this often on how it operates on arousing, empowers the direction of love. So we'll discuss that. All right, so the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. The competitive power and drive to leap into the void first. So the perfection of the warrior ego through instinctive adaptation, transforming natural patterns into a symmetrical adaptation that rides the shock and to avoid devastation. Competitiveness of being first, and daring and having the gall. So I'd like to share something about this, because when I first learned about 51 initiation, the shock, and needing to be first, I was like, I don't need to be the first, right? I don't feel myself as competitive. However, it's not so much, it's more on another dimension. It's not so much being competitive with others as it is being competitive with yourself, and to become a better version of yourself. And with that, being first in driving yourself to the next level, so to say. So, and in that sense, I do understand this trait, and it's for me my unconscious grounding and balance. I'm not sure which one, whether it's grounding or balance for me, but yeah. So I'd actually love to give the floor to Linda, how you see this in me from the other side, right?
Well, for example, you shocked me into teaching.
Oh, yes, that's a great example.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm not able to do that. And you said, yes, we need someone, and you are really capable of doing that. So I want to, initiate you to teach. And and you said, well, you can have your answer in the moment with your gut response. So it's a yes. So we will proceed with that. And then you have until September to get accustomed to it. So that's an example of how you shocked me into a new direction that I love, by the way. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
I don't have Moxie, but this is Pussycat.
Yeah.
So Pussycat says hi to everybody.
It's our new star.
Our new star. My Pussycat doesn't want to be on camera.
Well. Yeah, but what I really noticed with the trait 51, because I have you as an example, but also my aunt, it's her birthday tomorrow, and my dad, it's also his birthday. They kind of sometimes have a courage that I lack, because we're also going to talk about what's happening when you are, how you get affected when you are connected.
Get connected, yeah.
And I can really feel the fierceness in you and also in my aunt. And I feel like I am then literally, I am more shy or in the background more. And then when you are really feeling something, you are saying, yes, we are going to do it. And I'm going to make it happen, like being the first kind of to take the initiative. And then I feel like, okay, with the other side, I give you my blessing, but I don't want to do that myself. Just please do as you please. So it's really amazing also in our collaboration, how it works, because I feel like it's a beautiful, connection to have, because I need sometimes that courage to take another path that will lead me to me. Because otherwise, if you did not shock me, I was not teaching, because I was never, ever going to ask, can I teach? Because I did not feel capable. But yeah, you shocked me into doing that really early. I feel like, oh my goodness, can I do that? So yeah, it's daring. And also it's amazing that also here it says it's about having the goal. And I have the willpower undefined, and there's also a biological connection to the gallbladder. And with me, it's removed because I was doing things that were not like fitting me. And I felt like, yeah, it just destroyed kind of my gallbladder. It built up all those stones, and it literally had to be removed because I was not living healthy in that way. So, because I always thought like, I have to be more, I have to have more courage.
Yeah,
I have to be more daring.
You try to take the other role, right? The other side, whereas
yes,
you are
and that's not me.
Blessing. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything for you, Shelley or Anna? You both have worked with me as well.
Okay. Yeah, I have the 25. And so for me, it was a compliment. I mean, it was complimentary. And sometimes you would you had this sound that you would make. It was just a very spontaneous, like, boom, or not boom, but not that word, but sort of, whoop, you know, all of a sudden there'd just be this kind of impulse of sound or energy. And that's what I would notice. It would make me chuckle, but it always moved something forward. And, you know what, yeah, I can say something about the other half, you know, being, you know, when you're connected, but to have being connected and being on a project, teaching with you and that kind of thing, it was always very energizing because I don't have the sacral energy. So it was nice to feel that. And I do have willpower defined, so I could keep up, or I had the same energy to strive forward, to keep moving forward. So it was complimentary, and once in a while it'd be like, oh, which was fine. It was actually kind of comical. So
yeah, I can share another story. When we met Linda, so when I met Linda the first time, we live here in the Netherlands, and it was we were going to discuss something, that we were going to do a project together or whatever. And so, you know, the layout of whatever we were intended to do, and the idea came more from your side, right? And right off the get-go, I didn't know Linda. I said, well, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe we should start like da 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 da, right? I don't even remember what I said. And you were like, I could see your face and your whole reaction, like, oh my God, because also you kind of contacted your teacher at the time. You were my foundation student, and you were like, you know, kind of, well, let's call up the teacher and see if I can meet her. And then you were just shocked, like literally, like in your face and your whole body reaction. I was like, okay. And I know that I can do this. I can be very directive, right? In the way I talk, but I don't mean it's offensive or whatever. It's just a open for discussion, but the way it's perceived and it enters, it's like, you know, a real shock. And then I went like, oh, you know, I don't mean it like that, but you were probably like, oh my goodness. So
that was the case. And that's also with my aunt. She just can be silent, and then all of a sudden she shares something, and it feels like there is just a cannon that's gone off, and everyone is, did she really say that? And you can see, really? And I'm used to it now because I have Natalie, and I have my aunt and my father. And my father, I don't feel it, but sometimes they can, and that's also with you, you can kind of disturb your reality. So you have kind of a picture in your mind, like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it, because I have the other side of the innocence and universal love, and it's all blessings, it's beautiful. And then my innocence gets disturbed.
Oh, so funny.
Like, I didn't mean that, no.
Shelley, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, this is so fun listening to this. My daughter has this, but in an open will center. And, I'm wondering, Linda, if your dad's is also in an open will center.
Mine is also in an open, huh?
Is yours? Oh, okay. It's interesting. Yeah. I know that for her, she's always, wherever she works, she's an advisor, and she's always wanting to be first, to do things first. And when she's working in a large organization, that seems to be something that really drives her. So I can't remember where it is in her design, but she's always pushing the organization to be the first ones to adopt new ways of doing things, being green or whatever. And then I also have a sister-in-law who has the full strength. She's got the entire centering circuit, and she's so funny. She's a 2-4. She's a natural and naturally influential. She's really calm and laid back, and all of a sudden she'll just say or do something that's so completely off the wall that everybody's shocked, but it's in a humorous way. It's always like, what on earth are you doing? Like, she'll just do something really funny, dress really funny, or but it's always a shock. Or she'll say something that seems completely inappropriate for the audience, and everybody's just, like you said, did she really say that? So I've seen this in action as well. And because I have the whole thing open, my will center is defined, but I also had my gallbladder removed too. Because I have the 26 and the 40, it's all about work. And it was the stress of work, not working correctly, that also had this happen for me as well. So it's very interesting to understand that the physical connection in the body as well, that when we're not living to our design or to, I think for me, I was living my design, but I was also really had a whole pile of shadows getting in my way that I wasn't aware of, that were making me really anxious and nervous all the time. And they do know that the gallbladder is really affected by stress. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's interesting. Well, let's get to how you get connected how you get affected when you get connected. So the shadow of trait 51, when you don't have trait 51, but you have the other side of the 25. So the shadow of the 51 is lack of daring to face life's challenges head on. So the question is, do you avoid stepping out of your comfort zone? Does life sometimes seem stagnant or boring? Are you afraid of what may happen, so you play it safe? Do you avoid facing challenges head on? So the problem may be that you may find that you are too fearful to leap into the void or meet life's initiating challenges head on. This may cause life to feel stagnant. The solution is you are designed to work with others, like me, who can provide the shock and initiation you need to test your innocence. You may emerge a bit wounded, as you could hear from Linda, but from such initiations, but your ultimate triumph and survival enriches your spirit and the spirit of those around you. So, Linda or Anna, as you both have the 25 on the other side. Would you like to share, Anna?
Yeah. Because I'm an innovator, I tend to shock just by my presence. And I would say that in my experience, I've had people come at me competitive and pushy or controlling, or, kind of this energy, not really knowing what to do with me, let's say. And early on, I didn't know as much about how to be correct in my innovatorness. So I've noticed a whole difference in being able to innovate correctly, because it can be shocking, it can be disruptive. But I have the strength to adapt. For me personally, I've experienced more of the boredom stagnation. And I've made great, huge leaps in my life without looking, just kind of jumped off a cliff. And most of them have worked really well. I would say all of them worked really well, but there was a particular one that the price was high, let's say that. But it still initiated all kinds of self-love, courage, all of that. And what I began to understand is how to work with others, really, how to balance my energy, work and rest, and finding people with the 51 that are not, when I use my decision-making strategy, my informing correctly, I don't get that same competitive, dominating energy. The energy, like with you, Natalie, is much more nourishing, fun, creative, interactive. So, I would say that I've actually been encouraged and developed courage to go ahead and initiate by being around the 51, the energy of the 51.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, Linda.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Anna. I also recognize things that you share. And for me, I made, for example, last year, a conscious decision to step out of my comfort zone, because I really felt like, okay, I need to be more visible for my clients, and also to be able to work with clients, and also to have kind of my, to feel my worth, because that's what I'm lacking. I'm lacking my self-worth. And also not having the 51, I have the 40. So I want to make a contribution. But for me, what the journey that I have been on is that my stepping out of my comfort zone and having a little bit more courage came from a far different place than before. Because before, I was forcing myself to have the will and the willpower to do things that I felt like that I must do because I wanted to make a contribution, and I was kind of competitive with myself and with others. But now I feel like it's more coming from my gut response, like really from my own spirit, from kind of my innocence, my 25, like, okay, yes, I feel the spirit. I have something in store that I want to share from a different place, and that, and also by getting initiated, like in working with you, Natalie, by teaching, and I never thought I would. You become more confident.
Yeah,
because you are stepping into a void, and you feel like, oh, but I have myself that I can rely on, kind of. But in another sense, I sometimes, yes, feel that life may seem stagnant or kind of safe, that I'm not always able to step out of a kind of certain comfort zones, so to say. And I really, also by, hanging out with you also in private, helps me also to loosen up. So that's really, so I really like to collaborate.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Shelley, would you like to add something?
Oh, yeah. I don't have any of this. So it's all open for me, and it's more, I watch this happening in other people. I see the competitiveness, and I don't have the 51. So for me, I've never been competitive. I'm ambitious. I have the 54, but I've never been competitive. And I can play a game just for playing the game. I don't care who wins. And people often don't understand that. And especially a lot of people in my family have this 51. I never understood why it never mattered to me before to not be first. I'm the one who's always, we have a grandson who has this full strength, and he is the most competitive kid in the world. He has been from the time he was, able to talk and walk and speak. And he gets so bent out of shape if he doesn't win. He literally can't handle it if he loses. And so I spend a lot of time trying to open him up around all of that to say, it's okay. You're improving, you're getting better. You can't win every game every time, but he just wants to be first so badly that it's interesting. And he's an innovator as well. So, just watching him has been really a really great lesson in competition. And my husband keeps saying, don't talk him out of it. You can't teach competition. If he's got competition, I said, oh, don't worry. He's never going to let go of it. It's always going to be there. It's totally who he is. So it's interesting. And my husband's into a lot of sports. So competition is a big thing for him. He doesn't have this trait, but he was very competitive. He learned how to be competitive. And it's something he recognized in coaching kids, that they're either competitive or they're not. And you can't teach it. You either have it or you don't. And so this is a really great example that shows where that comes from.
Yeah. Great sharing. And we actually have Charmaine with us, and you'd like to share also about this. So I'm letting Charmaine come to join us. I don't know how long that takes actually for her to move over. Yes, there she's coming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you are. Hi, Charmaine.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Gosh, thanks for letting me contribute. So as you guys know, I'm an innovator, and I have the 25 3 times in my chart. I've got it unconsciously in my core essence and in communication, and consciously I have it judge and discipline. And I was listening to everybody's comments about this, and I get the competitive thing, because that is something in me that is quite noticeable. Well, certainly not so much now, but before I understood what was going on. And I was thinking about this this paragraph at the this is the question at the top where it says, stepping out of your comfort zone, and do you sometimes feel stagnant? And it kind of didn't resonate for me until I realized that when it comes to big things, like moving countries, or taking a leap of faith, or doing something quite major, I'm always stepping out of my comfort zone. I have no problem with that, but I do recognize that I can get, things can stagnate with just the ordinary things in life, and I can get quite stuck when it comes to those kinds of things. And I was just musing over the difference between, if someone said to me, oh, you avoid stepping out of your comfort zone, you avoid all the stuff, I'd be, no, I don't. My life is really interesting, and this, that, and the other. But I think what's highlighted over the last couple of years, when I haven't really, I really have had to knuckle down and just get on with daily life, because I haven't been able to go anywhere, because of everything that's been going on. I have recognized that things do get stagnant, and I do get very stuck if I don't have opportunities or options to step out of that. So that that was just what came to it for me. And I don't have much experience with people who have the 51. Interestingly, usually what tends to happen with my chart, I have the 45, and what tends to happen is I come across a lot of people who've got the 21, and that doesn't always work out so well, or that hasn't always worked out so well. But the 51, I find, certainly listening to you, Natalie, I find a lot of the things that you say, not just this evening, but in general, it seems to have a completely different connection for me, and it feels quite, what's the word I want to use? It doesn't feel as out of control as having an undefined willpower can feel for somebody who, for someone like me. It's just very different, and I think it's probably because it's linked to identity and direction rather than communication. Because the communication one, I've got a lot of, I've got pretty much I've got a lot going on in that area. So it's just that I'm just feeling my way through these different connections, and it's a completely different connection with the 51 as it is with the 21, and that's really interesting for me to experience the difference, because for a long time I had a feeling that any kind of definition in my willpower was just danger stranger danger.
It's interesting that you share as you share that it's different for you to connect with a 21 than it is with a 51, right? And I just came out of the class of OC16 where we actually have a beautiful explanation for that, because the 21 and 45 are actually both wanting to lead, right? And you could say the 45 is the CEO in America, and and the president in no, the other way around. I always get confused. So it's the president.
One is the manager.
Yeah, easier to say.
No, the 41 is the owner.
Yeah, the 21 is, so the 45 is the owner and the 21 is managing the day-to-day operations. Exactly.
Yes.
So they have kind of a power game going on, right? And that can clash. And if it works well, if they're both humble and you do it for the greater good, then it can work well. The 51 and the 25, actually, because of, you need the courage to dare. This is in the power base of competitiveness, in fighting for what you believe in. And if you have the BG5, for instance, as an example, I really believe in BG5 and what we do here. So I'm the warrior, I fight for it. And then Linda gives the blessing. So she goes like, go ahead, it's great. We have to get it out to the world. And then I can go, So that is more, how would we call that? It is really synchronicity. It's more operating in alignment with each other. So for you, Tremaine, to experience literally, both of these traits in that sense, we can explain by design.
I wanted to respond to Charmaine.
Yes.
Because you're an innovator as well, right?
Sorry?
Yes, I am. I'm an emotional innovator.
Yes, yeah. Because when you were, I could identify exactly what you were talking about, these huge leaps of faith moving across continents or whatever. I can relate. And then the daily life, for me anyway, the stagnation had to do with not understanding the ritual or the process of initiation, of innovating, of informing. And the stagnation would come from not recognizing when I was moved, not so much, in the moment by moment, because as I've gotten more familiar with being an innovator, I realized, oh my gosh, it can be exhausting. You can be innovating all day long. I mean, really, some days you do. And it's not something that you, at least in my experience, it's not something you plan on doing or try to do or anything. It comes through you. And so this move or this stagnation process, it's not stagnation anymore, because I recognize, oh, this is an innovator moment. Oh, this is an energy moving now. So I can tap it better. Previously, I didn't understand it all the time. So I would doubt. You can see, I can be doubtful at times. So that was just my response to what you said. That being an innovator in itself can be a constant process. So this relationship between initiating and stagnating depends on how you understand what that initiating process is, because it is a little bit different than the 51.
Yeah, it's another type of initiating.
Yeah, and I have, I have the 52 and the 53, which, I think one of the things, I when I have a lot of time on my hands, I can start a million things, I can initiate a million things, and it's this starter non-finisher. And it's always interesting how in my career that played out, because I was always seen as the person who would get things moving. And then as soon as things were moving, I'd step back and somebody else would take over. And it just was a natural space for me, because I just, I kind of lose interest. But yeah, I think the past couple of years have been, have concentrated a lot of the experiences I've had, because I haven't mixed with many people. I've largely been isolated on top of the mountain for the past, I don't know how many months. And it, everything that has happened has been very pure, and it's, I've sort of felt it. I haven't really felt any influence. The only influence I've had is really from transits, and the occasional person that I've met. So it's just been a very interesting experience. So yeah, thanks, Anna. That was helpful.
Great sharings. Oh, wow. All right, let's move on to today's quality. So today we're in quality 1. So we're having the initiation the whole week. So quality 1, reference. So the first line quality always is about authority, about insecurity at the beginning, to find a solid foundation to become an authority and an expert. So the advantage of previous crisis experiences. The elevation is the power of the ego conditioned by experience. So the gift of re-examination, that is the foundation of preparedness. And the challenge, the weakness of the ego in times of challenge, a tendency to emotionally withdraw after a shock. And I believe I have it in the first line quality as well, right? Yes, I do. Oh, so funny. So you can see, I don't know my whole design by heart, even if it's my life work. Oh, do I have anything to share here? I don't know if somebody else wants to go first. I didn't even process it for myself. I just read it. Anybody?
I can speak to that. Just again, without having the 51, having the 25. Going through different crises, because anytime you make a big move or a small move, you do upset, the line from the slide before, you do upset the balance. And that can be a crisis depending on how big the upset is. And it's part of what you learn, and it can strengthen your ego. I mean, a healthy ego development. Kids, Shelley, when you talked about your grandkids and things, a certain amount of crisis, not humongous crisis, but those sort of things you need along the way, develops a healthy ego. It develops your strength to adapt. And then when you play sports, or you're in some competitive arena, business, or whatever it is, you can draw on that ego strength. But like anything, you can withdraw when a situation is too much.
Yeah.
And you might need time to re-examine and all of that. So when I used to be fascinated, because I love watching sports, I used to be fascinated by the person that could make the throw or the shot the last second of the game. Because 40 years ago, I was thinking, I would be so nervous. I couldn't imagine doing that. But now I can relate. It's like, oh, I could do that. But it takes some development to have that strength to the ego strength, a positive ego?
Well, I now had time to process. So just this very BG5 Live is a great example of the elevation of this part of the quality, because I have an open willpower, but this is part of my life work, and the preparedness, right, of the foundation that I know I can do this. I've done it over and over again. I am a teacher. I am an instructor. I've done leading the BG5 Lives before. I've been part of the BG5 Lives. So just the gift of reexamination, being here, is the foundation of my preparedness. So I am conditioned. I have the willpower, although it's open, to, from experience, to be able to do this, right? Even if I was like 5 minutes before still in my class of OC16, and Shelley was really nervous, like, oh my God, we have to go to the other side. I was like, no worries, we'll get there. It's no problem. And then the challenge side of it, I also very well know this, because if any of you have read my case study that is on the in the articles on the free resources library that we have on our website, if I'm challenged and if it's too much, I do withdraw, literally. And the emotional withdrawal after a shock. The shock is, in my case, myself. So my only strength, I'll just show my design again. My only strength is the strength of concentration. And I have to focus, really focus on what I love doing. And if it's impossible for me to focus and I have too much on my plate and there is this, I shock myself by the circumstances or whatever, I withdraw. It's going black, and I withdraw from the world almost. So it's real kind of literal in the challenging part and the challenging side of, it should be the 51 over here, but yeah, so that's my explanation. And I do recognize this very strongly in my design. Linda or Shelley, would you want to add anything, or shall we move on to the next part of BG5 Live? Move on.
Natalie,
yes,
really quickly, I just wondered, just what you said there, it just occurred to me that I wonder whether the reason that I feel this slightly differently, especially in relation with you, is that the 25 is also part of my life work. So it's just it's another layer. So it's just interesting that we share that 25, 51 in that way, which I just saw that.
Yeah, there's so many layers, and this is what I love about this information. And even as an instructor, and we can learn our whole life about design, right? And just in being here and talking about it, you get a deeper layer of it, just you mentioning this, for instance. And so it's really beautiful to have this platform of BG5 Live, to be able to connect with you live and talk about all of these traits and qualities and life works. So, the celebrity life work theme. Why is it flying in anyway? That's Karen's thing, right? So we have Ram Dash. I personally do not know him, but a spiritual teacher. So his core essence is in the 51-1. So his life work is the theme of penetration. You catch us off guard and get our attention with your penetrating intuitive insights, ideas, which can shock, shift, or mutate our perceptions. So actually, this is interesting because Karen also has the life work of penetration, but then with this shift around, right? So what are we today? The 5th of April. So it's a quarter, right? With Karen's birthday, the 5th of January. So Ram Dass, also known as Baba Ram Dass, was an American spiritual teacher, guru of modern yoga, psychologist, and author. And his best-selling book in 1971 is called Be Here Now, which has been described by multiple reviewers as seminal, helped popularize Eastern spirituality and yoga in the West. So for any of you, do you know or have read or something about this, about him?
I do actually. I know
Charmaine.
I know quite a bit about him, and it was quite interesting, his life. He was very ill towards the end. I think he died in his late 80s, but he had quite a bad stroke, and he had a similar condition to the one that Bruce Willis has just his family's just gone public with, aphasia, which is this problem with speaking, or it might have been slightly different, the stroke one, but anyway, very similar. But just a very interesting man, because he had an incredible presence. I actually saw him live a couple of times, and he was a very, very powerful, just something about him, he just really had a presence about him. And it was always sad to me how his life, it sort of went, it just sort of, he was sort of went out, not with a bang, but a whimper as a way, because he lived in Hawaii. And I know that, I think Wayne Dyer at one point was, there was the Bernie Madoff stuff. I think he lost a lot of money. A lot of people lost a lot of money with the Ponzi scheme. But I know they did a lot of collecting, because Ram Dass gave a lot of his money away to charity, and then he lost a lot himself. But a really interesting guy, just really interesting. I didn't know that his life work theme was penetration, but that was definitely his style. I can really see that.
I remember when his book came out. I was a young hippie.
Woohoo, Anna!
Right. So I was right in that generation, and it not only seminal, it was just everywhere. And the way the book was published was very unique. In the late 60s, early 70s, it wasn't like a hardbound book you go buy. This was a very flexible, few words on a page. It was a very different presentation of this information. You would ponder a page because it wasn't full of script. It was a few messages. So the whole thing was a paradigm shift.
Oh, wow.
And it really rippled through my whole generation. And I know, Charmaine, that the end of it, how his life progressed wouldn't be what we imagined, but I do know he was very present. He was always present. That was what his thing was, and demonstrated this very, what he talked about, be here now. He lived that.
Yeah. And if you see his one and only strength, the strength of power, right? The archetype of survival, and so be here now is in combination with his life work theme is his design.
It's interesting as well, because he had sorry.
He never tried to be a spiritual teacher. He did take that role on, but he was never in that sense of being a guru. He kept stepping back from that. So he modeled just being as is. Present.
Yeah. Charmaine?
No, I was just going to say, because it was interesting, because there was quite a bit of controversy, which I find fascinating, the 5-1. So I find all that interesting. But he had that connection with that chap Leary, and they did quite a lot of research using psychedelics. And there was a big scandal at the time. I think it was back in the 60s, where they had all sorts of things that I think they got chucked out of university and stuff. So in some respects, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful anyway, he did remind me a little bit of Ra, because he did have this this way of connecting to something, something that just, that he got a different perspective on things. So a very well, he certainly did a lot of experimenting in his life with all sorts of different things, and I think that contributed to his wisdom.
Yeah, well, Ra did all kinds of things in his life as well. He is open about that. Yeah. Shelley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so go ahead, Charmaine.
No, sorry, I was just putting on mute.
Okay. I find this really fascinating, Anna. I'm so glad you were there at the time. I was about 10 years old when this was coming out, and now I realize just how much this may have influenced me the whole time I was growing up. And I was kind of unaware of it until I was in my 20s and started looking for this kind of information. And what I'm finding is I've always heard Ram Dass's name, but I've never really looked into him until like the past year or so. And his work is coming up again and again, in along with all the other new people. Like I'm wondering how much somebody like Eckhart Tolle was influenced by his work. It's, you know, the power of now is similar and similar style. The book that you were talking about, Anna, Eckhart Tolle's newest book is just like that. It's a page at a time, one sentence to contemplate, and called Stillness Speaks. Really similar style, and just as profound. And so I just find it really amazing that this information has been out there and around and emerging alongside and in conjunction with the era of illusion and delusion, which is the year I was born, was when that all started. So I kind of grew up in this era of illusion and delusion, but running through it is this thread of staying present and really removing the veil of everything that's going on around you. And so it's been influencing me in my whole life, and I was unaware that it was. I'm just fascinating putting those pieces together.
Shelley, if you're interested and you have Netflix, there's a very short documentary. I think it's called Ram Dass Coming Home or Going Home. And it's a really it's only, I think it's only half an hour, 40 minutes, but it's on Netflix, and it's just interesting. It won a lot of awards for. It just gives a really good synopsis. I thought it was a really good a good thing to watch.
I think that's where I think that's where I watched him just recently, Charmaine. Something caught my eye with him, and I found that on Netflix and watched it. And I thought, oh, I always wanted to know who he was and what he was about, because I've heard his name my whole life. And so, yeah, I did really enjoy it. It was a great insight. He wasn't who I thought he was, or what I had him confused with somebody else, I think. So I was really glad to watch that and get that clarity about him. And see how much
it's not just thank you for sharing that, Charmaine. I think for everybody here in BG5 Live and who's listening to this at a later stage or listening to us on Facebook, this is a great opportunity for you to see a live work and what we just shared about shock, etc. at work. So go and watch on Netflix this documentary on the life of Ram Dass, and you will understand, what we are doing here each week and sharing about the celebrity. Linda, did you want to share anything to wrap this up?
Just really briefly, what I really see is that he is the representative of being the spiritual warrior, because he was able to fight for the beautiful information from the East to get it implemented in the West. And with his 1-3 public role, he is just experiencing and also with his 3457, he is just on his own individual way, he has done that. So really authentic. So that's what I just noticed.
Beautiful. All right, let's wrap things up. We are in an hour already. So beautiful discussion, everybody. Thank you very much. And also thank you, Charmaine. So if you want to know about your own design, you can on our website find and download your chart and then listen along in these BG5 Lives with your own personal chart. And as you can see, Karen has it also in her life work. So she is a quarter away from the life work of this life work of penetration, where it's the other way around. So in our free resources is where you can find my case study down here. And you can also find the BG5 Lives, all of our episodes here. And and you can subscribe on our website as well to the trade of the day, and then you'll get a daily message on which trade it is, in which quality, at what time, etc. And so it's really nice to keep up with the background frequency if you are interested. And new classes will start in May, and actually also in April. I'm just sharing this for all of you that want to start the BG5 certification course. It's starting in 2 weeks because I'm starting half of April with the BG5 certification course. And then other classes start in May, so foundation course and etc. So check out our website on courses and education and programs, and you will find the information there. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Charmaine, for sharing with us. And I'd like for you, each of the panelists and Charmaine, to just give us something to take with us as we enter into this week of shock. So let's start with Charmaine. Let's start with our guest.
I pass. I've had a lot of shocks recently, but that I'm still reeling from, and
Do you have any advice or any suggestion for people to cope with shock? Maybe.
I think as somebody who's emotionally refined, it's always very difficult to not respond to something emotionally and to not overreact, I say is probably the thing. And the advice that I offer myself and perhaps suggest as well that is helpful is just to remember that whilst there's always truth in the now, there's never a decision in the now, certainly not for me. And it's just knowing that despite, no matter how overwhelming that panic and that shock is, to just take a breath and wait for that moment to pass, because it never serves me to overreact in any way. And although I know it, I have to keep reminding myself of it when things, are very shocking.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's a great suggestion. Anna, what would you like to give people?
I would ponder, along with shock, can bring, like we talked about, some chaos, some change, some transformation, but more subtly, it's about vulnerability. And what it does is sort of shake you up, make you vulnerable, and that's not a bad thing. So I would suggest sort of witnessing that edge of vulnerability. And maybe some shocks are huge and they make you feel too vulnerable. And then, like we've already spoken about, you might want to retreat a little so you can organize all that. But on a daily transit level, kind of just assess that sense of vulnerability when you want to retreat a little bit, when you want to move out into the world a little bit, what that natural rhythm is for you.
Yeah, beautiful. And Linda, you also, yeah, and in handling shock, you are experienced.
Yes. And also in crisis and friction. So yeah. Well, that's what I always share is be aware. Be aware of what's going on, because it may give you this week a feeling of that you lack courage. So it may be in your face like that. And that you feel like I have to, or the other way around, that you feel like, oh, I can do that. And you are going to do that from your mind and then end up really in a shock. So be aware and use your decision-making strategy to really feel if a daring step, so to say, is the step to take right now. And also to stretch the limit for yourself, to be competitive with yourself or with others. So, because it is a background frequency and it just can overpower you, kind of. It just can give you a sense of, oh, this is what I really feel right now that I have to do. But it can be deceiving. So it's really about awareness, that you notice what's going on also with the people around you, because they can be more competitive with themselves or with you as well. And that you feel with your decision-making strategy if it's true for you. And if it is, then you can use the courage and the shocking initiating energy to maybe take a step out of your comfort zone that will bring you closer to yourself. So that's my take.
Beautiful. Shelley, anything you want to add, or?
You know, it's so interesting for me because I have this whole strength wide open is it's more of an educational piece for me if you look at it from cycle's point of view. So really all I'm doing is observing this in other people. And I often say nothing shocks me. And that's what it feels like, is I can watch all the things that are going on and I can see how people are being shocked by it. But I'm not surprised by anything that happens because I think I have that wide open view of everything. So you know, if you're like me and you have it wide open, you may feel the same. You may not notice the shock. I love everything that everyone said, especially what you've talked about, Linda, that you know, giving people the courage to take that step if it feels right and the time to do it. I'm going to pay attention to that a little bit and see. But also just, you know, for yourself, pay attention to notice whether or not you're easily shocked or whether nothing shocks you. See how that shows up for you. And always following your decision-making strategy.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. Like what all of you shared and how to cope with it, and the core is always follow your own decision-making strategy and just be aware of how you may be conditioned or influenced by the transits, and not feel overwhelmed and just let it pass and go through you. And if you are able to be that objective observer, it can be beautiful to watch the world, the movie that's going on, and to see what will come out, or, you know, shocking information, or as Linda shared, how others are shocked or how they shock you or whatever, but just being, you know, centered in yourself with your decision-making strategy. And as Charmaine was sharing, just let it pass. Don't act directly, right? It is, and according to your own decision-making strategy, of course. Some have, like myself, a direct, you know, I know or I don't. But is it from being conditioned and in your shadows from the mind, or really from your own correct decision-making strategy? But watch the movie. It will be an interesting week for sure. So who knows what we will take from this week to next week. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, and I want to thank everybody for being here and to be with us also on Facebook. And we hope to see you all next week. So we can say goodbye, and we see you all next week. Bye bye, and thank you.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.